The book of Habakkuk, one of the 12 minor prophets in the Bible, captures a powerful conversation between the prophet Habakkuk and God. This dialogue, which unfolds over 3 chapters, centers on themes of justice, faith, and the power of divine timing in the face of human suffering. Chapter 1, Habakkuk's complaint and God's response. Habakkuk begins by crying out to God, distressed by the rampant injustice and violence he witnesses in Judah. He sees oppression, injustice, and the powerful exploiting the weak. Habakkuk questions why God seems to tolerate wrongdoing, asking, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Or cry out to you, violence, but you do not save?" Habakkuk 1:2. His lament reflects his confusion and deep concern for his people and the moral decay of his society. God responds to Habakkuk, explaining that he is at work in ways the prophet may not understand. God reveals that he will raise up the Babylonians, also known as the Chaldeans, as a tool of judgment against Judah. This response, however, is alarming to Habakkuk because the Babylonians are a brutal and powerful nation, known for their cruelty and conquest. God describes them as ruthless and impetuous people who sweep across the earth, seizing nations not their own. Habakkuk 1:6. Chapter 2, Habakkuk's second complaint and God's assurance. Struggling with God's answer, Habakkuk questions how a righteous God could use a nation as wicked as Babylon to judge Judah. He asks why God would allow a nation that is more wicked than his own people to punish them, voicing his discomfort with God's chosen instrument of justice. God tells Habakkuk to write down the vision and assures him that although justice may seem delayed, it will come at the appointed time. He says, "For the vision awaits an appointed time, it speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it, it will certainly come and will not delay." Habakkuk 2:3. God calls on Habakkuk to trust his timing, emphasizing the importance of faith and patience in the face of apparent injustice. God's message is clear: the righteous shall live by faith. Habakkuk 2:4. This profound statement becomes a foundational principle in both the Old and New Testaments, emphasizing that faith is central to a righteous life. God then details a series of woes against the Babylonians, condemning their violence, greed, and idolatry. These woes reveal that although Babylon will be used as a tool of judgment, they, too, will face consequences for their actions. Chapter 3, Habakkuk's prayer of faith. The final chapter is a prayer, a song of trust and reverence. Habakkuk reflects on God's past deeds, recalling how God delivered Israel from its enemies. He speaks of God's power and majesty, using vivid imagery to describe God's control over nature and his ability to bring down powerful nations. Habakkuk acknowledges that while he is fearful of the coming judgment, he also has faith in God's ultimate justice and mercy. In the closing verses, Habakkuk makes a profound declaration of faith. Despite the impending hardships and the desolation he foresees, he proclaims that he will still rejoice in God. He states, "Though the fig tree does not bud and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord, I will be joyful in God my Savior." Habakkuk 3:17-18. This passage highlights Habakkuk's spiritual growth and his steadfast faith, regardless of his circumstances. Justice and divine sovereignty. Habakkuk's initial complaint reflects the human desire for immediate justice. However, God reminds him that divine timing often differs from human expectations, and ultimate justice is assured in God's plans. Finding joy amidst suffering, an uplifting scene with Habakkuk rejoicing amidst a barren landscape, showing him with an expression of contentment and peace. In the sky, symbols of hope like rays of sunlight or doves flying represent his joy and trust in God beyond his present trials. In conclusion, the book of Habakkuk invites readers to wrestle with their doubts, seek understanding, and ultimately put their trust in God's wisdom. Through his journey, Habakkuk grows from questioning God's justice to embracing faith in his divine plan, teaching a timeless lesson about reliance on God even when faced with trials.